The Supreme Court has again had a hearing today in the Baba Ramdev case and has granted a week time to Yoga Guru Baba Ramdev and Patanjali Ayurved Limited, MD Balakrishna Acharya, in the Patanjali misleading advertisement case in which they had been sued by the Indian Medical Association. The court has asked them to take steps to redeem themselves of the alleged contempt after the lawyers offered to issue a public apology. Ramdev once again issued an unconditional apology to the Supreme Court for publishing misleading ads and making comments against allopathic medicines in breach of an understanding given to the court. And Balakrishna and Ramdev both personally appeared before the court again, assuring the court that such incidents will not occur in the future. The Supreme Court said at this stage this does not mean they're letting Patanjali off the hook, and added that personality is not that important. The bench of Justices Hima Kohli and Ahsanuddin Amanullah heard the case, and the Apex Court has posted the case for further hearing on the 23rd of April and also took cognizance of the duo's unconditional apology. Moreover, the bench has warned the duo against their speeches degrading modern medicine systems. Let's quickly bring in our panelists joining us live. Padam Shri Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, Chairman Nephron Clinic, is joining us on the broadcast. Dr. PSV Rao, Consultant Surgeon, Manipal Hospital, Hebbal, Bengaluru, also joins us live. Bijon Mishra, International Consumer Policy Expert, is with us. Kapil Sankla, Supreme Court lawyer, also joins the broadcast. Let me make a start with you first, Dr. Bagai, on what you make of this very, very tough approach that the Supreme Court has decided to adopt in this particular case, as was evident in today's hearing once again.
Good evening, everyone. So 4 quick points. First of all, without any doubt, as a serial offender, Patanjali as a company have been misleading the public at large with fraudulent, deceptive, misinformation advertisements, which lure patients willfully. And very often these patients leave their routine line of medication, especially for chronic ailments like chronic liver disease, chronic kidney disease, or cancers, or heart disease, diabetes. And this can be carrying a high risk of mortality and morbidity. So I think that's point number 1. So they're doing more harm than good. Point number 2 is you can't promise magical and dramatic cures, one-time cures. That don't exist. It's scientifically inaccurate and it's completely fraudulent, especially for diabetes or hypertension, coronary artery disease, dengue, malaria, cancers. He has even proclaimed for infertility and so on. Arthritis, seizures. I mean, this can carry a high risk of fatality. Point number 3 is we respect all lines of medicine. We are scientists at heart. We respect all lines of medicine. It's the patient's choice which line of medicine they need to follow, which field of medicine they need to follow. But for him or his company to be decrying allopathic medicine, especially during COVID, creating vaccine hesitancy, saying the vaccines don't work, promoting ridiculous oil to be put in the nostrils, which has huge harmful effects. So I think this was all going very, very wrong for him. Point number 4 is the window period for patients with cancers, diabetes, heart disease, especially kidney diseases. Your window period of safety is very narrow. So if you stop your allopathic medicines, you can slip into irreversible multi-organ damage very quickly. And last, most importantly, is that this point is not just limited to an advertisement from one particular company. But I think the greatest offenders are skin companies, which make skin products, hair products, multivitamins, immunity boosters, health drinks, energy drinks, and so on. But here I want to make a distinction. Last 30 seconds is that these kind of promotions in which you're trying to equate yoga to Ayurveda is again misleading. Yoga is a separate thing. It's not a medical field. And Ayurveda is a medical science. Those to be distincted very clearly. But a patient is not going to slip into multi-organ failure or even die using a hair ointment or a skin cream. It may cause no harm. It may cause no good. Or in case you're using a hair cream, you may lose even more hair rather than hair growth. But when you are promoting a health product, trying to promise magical remedial cures for chronic ailments, that prima facie is wrong. So I think this should be a case example, not only for Patanjali, but across the board for every possible company. There has to be standardized guidelines before it comes in print, social media, or on television, electronic media. This is a learning curve. I think this one case example will set many companies right. Over to you.
Right. Dr. Rao, come in here on your take. It clearly seems that the Supreme Court has decided to make this an example case. Looking at the kind of wordings of the observations of the judges so far, and how they're simply not willing to let Patanjali and Baba Ramdev and Acharya Balakrishna off the hook so easily.
Good evening to all of you. Yes, Uday, they are picked on this particularly because he is extremely influential, one. Secondly, as a yoga teacher. Now, when someone uses his popularity to misinform, then it is far more effective than some unknown person trying to advertise and inform. This is why they are making an example of this. Second, in spite of giving an undertaking to the court, he and his partner, willfully continued to with their misinformation. This is after giving an undertaking to the court. That adds to the wrongdoing that they are doing. Thirdly, they had, if his popularity was not enough to make it look very official, he claimed that WHO had approved of it. This further, complicated legally, made it even more illegal. And WHO had to clarify, saying that we have not given any certification for it. If all this was not bad enough, he gets two ministers, popular ministers, one of them is a doctor, to stand on either side of his when he's making his statements. Now, this is really rubbing salt into the Supreme Court's wounds. This is how can any any court tolerate this kind of behavior? This is really taking things too far. I'm sure Mr. Kapil, who is a lawyer, Supreme Court lawyer, will understand what I'm trying to say. You can't give a written undertaking to the court and then continue to do whatever you feel like. And as if you are misusing your popularity in yoga to make claims in Ayurveda. And it shows a total lack of concern for the people who are going to be misled. Totally. And at a time when there was a pandemic going on, and remember, this case is from 2020, and people were dying in large numbers. You try to mislead and create more confusion. And like Dr. Sanjeev Bagai said, you cause vaccine hesitancy. After all, finally, this, whatever you may say about various vaccines, it was the vaccines which stopped the pandemic. And it was not any of these unscientific various gimmicks which were promoted during that. And misusing your popularity and social media to spread misinformation of this sort can never be tolerated. And this is why he is being made an example of. But like Dr. Sanjeev Bagai mentioned, there are many other companies, many other multinational and Indian companies which are taking people for a ride. And there are a lot of as if all this is not bad enough, we have fake medicines, fake doctors. And as you covered in your own channel very recently, there were even fake surgeons who were operating in Delhi and doing surgeries and killing people. So this has become now really out of hand. And Supreme Court has rightly decided to come down heavily on all this kind of illegal activities and behavior. Over to you.
What kind of stringent punishment would you expect in this case, which has obviously become now an example case in the Supreme Court, Bijon Mishra, given what the Supreme Court is accusing the individuals and heads connected with Patanjali Ayurveda of?
Well, I would definitely expect the Supreme Court to kind of give an award in terms of compensation, because you see, they have enriched themselves in a very large manner. They have made a lot of money through these deceptive and misleading advertisements. So I would always say the Supreme Court should ensure that while they are being so stringent and they have been very strict and they are taking it up to its logical end, and I'm very happy with the fact that they are monitoring it in a regular manner, that they should try to impose a very hefty fine on them for this kind of a misleading and deceptive advertisement and also disparaging other products, and put that money into the Consumer Welfare Fund, which is there with the Government of India Department of Consumer Affairs, to be used towards the welfare of the consumers in building awareness and creating campaigns against such misleading advertisements which are still happening. You see, I would like to say, and I would like to appeal to the Supreme Court that they should give an award which is neutral, which is covering everyone, and nobody dares to do it in future. So it cannot be only on a single party. It should be overarching on all such violators who are, as we define it in the law, as unfair trade practice. They definitely should be penalized. And I would also appeal to IMA that this is the right opportunity to also tell the Supreme Court that they will also stop endorsing products, which they do, and mislead sometimes the innocent consumers by endorsing certain private products, which I don't think is the mandate of Indian Medical Association to do. So I think this is a very right time for all the players to come and wash themselves and become more ethical in terms of consumer awareness, consumer protection, and not allow Supreme Court to intervene in future on all such matters, so that the Supreme Court puts to rest all such activities which have been unfair to the consumers, misleading to the consumers, and many reputed organizations, as I mentioned, are going into endorsements, going into giving all kinds of fictitious recognitions and awards in terms of their excellence in quality and service. So I think all these misleading activities should come to an end in our country, which has not been happening because the consumers did not have the deep pocket to go before the Honorable Supreme Court. Now the Indian Medical Association has been able to use their resource rightfully and go before the Supreme Court to get this order. So I think this is the right time to get a clear order which is neutral, which is predictable, which is in the interest of the citizens, coming out of this intervention made by Indian Medical Association, including they taking a pledge that they would also stop endorsing products in future and not allow such endorsements to be done to mislead the consumers. Because you see, we have to become credible. If you are taking such a cause, you also should be seen practicing it, which is very important. Unfortunately, I am not able to observe that. And that is what is very important, in my view, should emerge out of this kind of a intervention, which is a great intervention for our country, which has happened after many, many years. And I am very happy that Supreme Court has been able to monitor it in such a manner that they are trying to get to the logical end and be able to give some kind of a stringent signal or a message to the business community that they cannot adopt such kind of a misleading and unfair trade practice to be adopted under the provisions of our existing laws of our country. The laws have to be seen not only neutral, but effective and efficient. So we want laws which are effective, efficient, and not allowing citizens to go before the bench and seek justice. Justice should be prevailing, in all manner and be able to be delivered in a manner that people who are criminal-minded are not able to do that criminal activity in future. So this is what I feel very happy about, the fact that a very big debate has come in public domain after many years because of the intervention of the Honorable Supreme Court. And I feel very honored that the Supreme Court has taken this matter so seriously in the interest of the consumers. I feel very happy about it. And of course, I feel that Indian Medical Association has been able to garner their resources together to fight this out in public domain and get an order in favor of the consumers of our country.
Kapil Sankla, what are you expecting to be, the next hearings update? Because obviously Baba Ramdev and Acharya Balakrishna say they are ready now for a public apology. The Supreme Court says so far, they were not in any mood of apology just yet. They've obviously directed the two to appear before the apex court once again next hearing. Where are you seeing this case headed, given your legal experience?
Thank you. Let's just take a step back for a second. The case is not that the medicines promoted by Baba Ramdev or Ayurveda medicines do not work. Let's understand the case. There's a long history of herbal cures in India, China, Thailand, US. There's a new interest which is there. There's an entire science pertaining to Tibetan and Unani medicines. Homeopathy is a very popular medication in India and in Germany. So let us not really paint this with a broad brush, as is being sought to be unfortunately done. What was being punished is the conduct of Baba Ramdev and his people and of their act. And their act was that after they gave an undertaking that they will not make any public comments regarding the case and in the meanwhile not make any statements, advertise, etc. They actually publicly, had a press conference and made certain statements. So the punishment comes from there, that an undertaking made to the court turned out to be an incorrect undertaking. Now, as far as the Magical Remedies Act is concerned, the maximum punishment, first offender is 6 months and some fine. The second is 1 year and some fine. So that's really not really important. But as far as the contempt is concerned, which is where Baba Ramdev is now stuck, is for which he said that he probably got carried away, is only God and the my lords know after the Sahara case. So you really don't know what kind of punishment may fall. But if the apology is taken on record and the apology is tendered in the right spirit, and he undertakes not to make certain statements, because here the case was that he started belittling another line of medication, as rightly stated, which is allopathic medication. And therefore, the claims turned out to be a little more fantastic than they were supposed to be, therefore coming under the Drugs Magical Remedies Act. So what I do see is, and this is my view only, as I said, only God and my Lord knows, but considering that an undertaking will be given and an apology will be accepted, I think there would be certain fine. I don't think there would be a physical punishment. There would be, so to say, a rap on the knuckle, and he would be allowed to let go. Because as I said, there is no case that the medicines promoted by Baba Ramdev or Ayurveda do not work. What was said was, the claim was that this works and allopathy does not work. And after making an undertaking, a repeat performance was done by Baba Ramdev, which the court did not take very kindly to. That's my take in the matter.
Interestingly, Dr. Bagai, the court also has come down very heavily on the government as well. Both the centre and the Uttarakhand government saying, why were they sleeping? Were they waiting for the court to crack down? Why didn't they take action earlier? And they asked for an affidavit on the government's response in this matter as well, coming down very heavily on them.
So two parts. One is, of course, when we practice medicine, it has to be without fear and without favor. What we say has to follow a simple line of evidence-based medicine. It has to be backed with scientific data. It has to be proven without any element of doubt that this particular line of medication or drugs work to give benefit. After all, the ultimate dictum is do no harm. So if you're not sure, it's better not to use a drug rather than to use a drug which is going the wrong way. Point number two is, I would really request the central government that across all states and union territories, there must be a screening process before any advertisement to promote health, wellness, fitness, weight loss, etc., including the skin creams, the hair treatments, must be scrutinized to reach a minimum standard of ethics. Over to you.
Yes. Is that something you believe was necessary, Bijon Mishra? Because often the onus should be on government, but in this particular case, the Supreme Court believes the governments didn't do anything.
You see, when laws are made by the lawmakers, it becomes the onus of the government, the executive, to implement it. And as you know, that all these laws which are there, whether it is Consumer Protection Act, whether it is Magic Remedies Act, whether it is Drugs and Cosmetics Act, there are so many laws which are governing such kind of mischievous, misleading, deceptive kind of advertisements. So where are they? Why were they caught sleeping? Why did Indian Medical Association have to go and intervene before the Honorable Supreme Court on such matters? My issue is the state governments were also found lacking it. Even today, I don't see the state governments are on board. They don't even have trained people. And Dr. Bagai is saying is that, these kind of screening committees, it will again create a layer. It can even create a kind of an opportunity for people to not become creative and not go in a legal manner. So I would always say that the industry should voluntarily be able to tame themselves in a manner that they are able to deliver what is as per the provisions of law. And there is already a very good example in India. There is something called the Advertising Standards Council of India, which is being promoted by the private sector. And they are themselves having a code of conduct. And they do a lot of screening in terms of advertisements where the private sector goes to them, seeks their expertise before they advertise. So these kind of bodies should be well recognized like it is done in other developed countries. And we should ensure that the citizens' rights are well protected through voluntary measures from the industry rather than a kind of all the time breathing over the shoulder and bringing back the Inspector Raj. We have to open up. We have to ensure that there is fair competition at the marketplace, but at the same time, not violate the provisions of law. Law has to be neutral, as I always say. Law has to be seen predictable. The law has to be same for everybody. It cannot be for some particular brand which is very popular. You always target them. No, it can't be like that. It has to be anybody, any entity which is in the business of making profit. We have to make sure that none of the commercial activities are conducted in a manner which is violating our existing law.
Yes.
It's very, very important.
Okay. And Dr. Rao, is it important then that it doesn't become a fight of allopathy versus Ayurveda?
It is definitely not a fight between Ayurveda and allopathy. It is people trying to make it out as if it is a. Has IMA said that there is something seriously wrong with Ayurveda? No, they haven't said. Nor have the Ayurvedic doctors said something is wrong with allopathy. This is purely misinformation from one individual. He is not even an Ayurvedic doctor. He is a famous yoga practitioner who is trying to, has already been mentioned, trying to use his yoga background to make it look as if he is quite an expert in Ayurveda. But problem is he is spreading misinformation. This is not an Ayurveda allopathy fight at all. And for your information, my grandfather was a very famous Ayurvedic doctor who set up an Ayurvedic pharmacy, which is still functioning. And I, from my childhood, I have known Ayurveda earlier than I came to know allopathy, and I am a surgeon. And I have great respect for the Ayurvedic drugs. This is definitely not an Ayurveda allopathy. It's people trying to make it out like that because they are trying to say why, they are trying to troll as to why Ramdev is being picked up, because he is a very popular figure. And all his fans and admirers are wondering why Supreme Court is picking on him when there are so many other people also doing it, all these kind of things. But he has gone beyond all boundaries by giving a written affidavit to the...
Okay. Let's leave it at that. I think we've lost that connection with Dr. Rao, but we've run out of time. My thanks to all of our guests for joining us on this discussion.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.